And just make sure you try to keep your devices on mute. And thank you so much for joining us. And Judge Whitaker, it looks like I think everyone's just about in. There's one that looks like they may be having an issue, but everyone's out of the waiting room and you can begin when you're ready.
All right. Thank you very much, Director Ross. I am going to call to order the first of our 4 quarterly commission meetings for the 2024 year. Welcome, everybody. My name is Judge Paige Reese Whitaker. I am the District 5 Judicial Representative on this commission and the current chair of the commission. And I want to call y'all's attention to the other dates on our agenda for our other 3 commission meetings for the year. So if y'all can pay attention to that and add those to your calendar, we will be happy to see each other at least 3 more times this year. Want to thank everybody for lending your efforts to our continuing quest to end intimate partner violence, dating violence, elder abuse, and all forms of domestic violence here in Georgia. It takes all of us working hard on that to achieve it, and we're going to share exciting news during this commission meeting, as well as challenges that we face and ideas for how to tackle those. I want to welcome all of our returning members, and as well, thank you for your service and dedication. And we have a lot of new blood on our commission in the last few months as well. So I wanted to quickly mention, and hopefully I will get everybody that has joined us since September. We have got much new membership. We have Representative Joseph Gullett, Representative Carolyn Hughley, Representative Kimberly New, who are all joining us on this commission in the past 6 months or so. Senator Freddie Powell Sims, thank you. And we have many new judges on judicial appointees from the various districts. Judge Lindsey Burton, Judge Stephen Bradley, Judge Ashley Wright, Judge Nina Marquette Baker. And then we have advocates and others joining this commission, including Anna Thomas and Jamie Borman. Welcome to all of you. I hope that I didn't miss anybody. We now are down to only 2 vacant seats, and we have ideas floating around to fill both of those seats as well. One is a District 6 judicial seat and one is an advocate seat. So we'll be working on those as well. I hope that everyone has had a chance to see our new newsletter. It should be going out on about an every other month basis. And if you have not yet had a chance to look at it, I encourage you to. It is chock full of information and looks incredibly professionally well done. And it is just another way to keep us all informed and connected between our commission meetings. So please do take a look at that. That includes everyone's committee assignments.
You remember that scene in 12 Years a Slave when
talking about how we would love to get the commission members themselves more involved in some of the hands-on work of our commission. And everybody should be able to find their committee assignment as well as what the various committees do. We'd love to start to do substantive work in those committees and get updates as those committees do their work as well. And one thing I'm going to mention that we will take up again later in our new business is that with Peggy Wilson, our longtime secretary, rolling off of this commission recently, we are going to have a need to have someone be our secretary. And in addition to, of course, taking the minutes for our commission meetings, the secretary is a member of the executive board for this commission. So be thinking as we go through this meeting about whether that is a calling that you might have right now. And with that, I am going to turn it over to our vice chair, Charles Sperling, to take the attendance, which I think is probably being done electronically, and for approval of the minutes. Thanks.
Thank you, Judge Whitaker. I appreciate the opportunity. And I want to echo your comments earlier. There's a lot of good work going on here, and we're excited about it. That is the the state of mind that we are bringing ourselves to, so that we're excited that we can do good work in this arena. I want to also bring your attention to the fact that Stacy has dropped a number of opportunities in the chat for you to sign in, and for you to sign in with your name and all of the important information that she needs to capture. So please pay attention to the chat. Now it's a minute approval time. So I want to bring our attention to that. I know that the minutes have been sent out previously, so I would like to entertain a motion that the minutes are approved. Entertain a motion and a second if I can get it.
So moved, Judge Bishop.
Thank you, Judge Bishop. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, June Choi. Good to see you. All right, we have our motion and we have a second. So I need to move on now to conference reports. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that. Judge Whitaker, I'm gonna give it right back to you.
Well, we should probably vote on approval of the minutes. So give us a raise of the hand if you vote to approve the minutes.
You're right. You're right. I missed that. Let's give a raise of the hands or approval of the minutes as they're written. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as they are written. Now I will give it back to Judge Whitaker.
All right. Thank you. And so the next thing on our agenda is discussion of the 2024 conference report. And I'm not quite sure who's going to be running that discussion. April, is that going to be you?
No, I'm doing it, Judge Whitaker. So that's.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't have anybody next to that one. All right. Take it away, Jamila. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. So our 30th annual Family Violence Conference will be in August this year. It's not going to be in September, so we are moving it up a little bit. It'll be August 25th through the 28th, and it's going to be at the Classic Center in Athens. Our theme this year is Learning from the Past, Forging Ahead Together. So this is our 30th annual conference, so this is going to be a big deal for us. And I'm happy to announce that we do have one co-chair that has agreed to be the co-chair. So that's Anna Thomas, one of our new commission members. And we are still waiting to confirm the second co-chair, and we should have that information pretty soon to you. We have identified our keynote speakers for this year. It'll be Dawn Schiller and Russell Strand. And one of the keynote presentations will be a film that we're going to review, and it's Behind the Rage, and it focuses on the family violence intervention programs. So we will have a screening of that film along with the discussion afterwards. So that should be a treat for us to see. It's a little change from what we normally do. So it'll be in the afternoon rather than the morning. So that'll be something that we'll get together after lunch to preview. We have received about 56 workshop proposals, and the Conference Planning Committee is in the process of reviewing that right now to make a decision on the workshops that we'll select. The proposal period ended February 16th. So we did receive, like I said, 56 proposals, and we're going through that. So we should narrow it down pretty soon. Registration will be opening in May. So just be looking for the emails that'll be going out regarding registration. We did increase our registration fees this year with the inflation of, cost inflation of things. We had to go up a little bit. So the early registration fee will be $375, and it's, a $50 increase than it was last year. But, you'll still be getting all the perks that you received before, and actually a little bit more, because we're going to have a 30th anniversary celebration reception on that Tuesday evening. So it'll be in the atrium at the Classic Center. So we do want you all to come and, enjoy food, fun, and networking with us. So that'll be a great opportunity for you all to meet other FFs, community partners, law enforcement, anybody that's going to be at the conference. So it'll be a good opportunity. We will also have a lot of vendors there. So, if you came to the conference this year, our vendor space was expanded. So this year it is expanded a little bit more. So it'll be an opportunity for you to see, local vendors as well as national vendors that will be present. So that pretty much concludes our my report for the Conference Planning Committee.
Thank you very much. And the next thing we are going to hear from April, and Karima with GCADV, sharing our legislative session update.
Thank you. I've invited Karima Dillard, the policy director for the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence, to share. They're working on a number of things, and we've been working pretty much hand in hand together this session to try to help get these bills moved, because there's so much work we're trying to get done. So I'll start, and then I'll open it up and give Karima a chance to make some comments about some of the work they've been doing as well. Crossover Day just passed. We ended Crossover Day last week with our bill. Well, let me just start with a couple of the bills we have that we're looking at. Right now, we are working on SB 320. This is the bill that the commission endorsed last year. This is the HIV testing timeframe, from looking to move the timeframe up from 45 days to 48 hours if a victim of a sexual assault requests that the defendant be tested for HIV. This is pre-conviction testing. So we're doing this because of the funding hold that we have on grants. And this applies to any grant in Georgia under a certain program with OVW. If you're subject to that grant, you're now under a 5% holding. From 5% of your awards is being withheld because our law does not coincide with that special condition. So we're getting our law to be compliant with what they require. So that's what this is about. SB 324, Karima will talk about a little bit more, but this is the address confidentiality. HB 1110, the dating violence fix. This is because when we passed the dating violence bill and created a TPO for dating violence, and creating a new code section, we did not update the corresponding criminal code section to allow that offense to be enforceable, essentially. So we're going to fix the language in 16595. The code section is OCGA 16595. So we're looking to do that. That bill did not make it over on Crossover Day as well, but we are still working to see if it can attach to another bill. So hopefully it's living to fight another day. There's a few other bills that we're keeping eyes on. HB 1136 is a stalking bill from Representative Misha Maynard. She's looking to update the stalking language. I do not believe this one made it over on Crossover Day, but I know that she's been working diligently for many years to try to get the stalking bill through. So we've got a lot of legislators that are still very interested in working on updating the stalking bill. So that one, I think, is still being pursued, even though it did not succeed on Crossover Day. One of our staff members, Carolyn Brooks, who is now out on maternity leave, we just had a new GCFV baby about a week or two ago. So she's out on maternity leave, but she's currently a part of the Georgia Women's Policy Institute. And she and her cohort are working on HB 1010, which is increased paid leave for state employees, for paid parental leave from, I think, currently 3 weeks to 6 weeks. And that bill is having a good reception and is moving. HB 1184, this is another bill that the commission was presented, I think, a year or so ago that we endorsed. This is to, I guess, update the evidence code and some language to allow restorative, I'm sorry, not restorative, what did they call them?
Are you talking about restorative justice circles?
Yes, yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of the second word. Restorative justice programs, right? So that the if Georgia programs start to incorporate restorative justice activities with where a victim and their abuser are able to kind of connect and talk and work together, that we put language in the evidence code so that that person is protected from that evidence being later used against them, so that it will encourage people to participate in restorative justice programs and activities so that victims can try to get healing that way. So that's what that bill is about. Karima will also talk a little bit about Stand with Survivors Day, but we had a successful event. And I do want to say thank you. I don't think she's on the call, but I want to say thank you to Senator Kay Kirkpatrick for passing a Senate resolution for Stand with Survivors Day on February 7th. So those are the bills we're working on. Again, we still are a few days left in the legislative session, so nothing's dead till it's dead. And we'll just keep fighting and connecting with our representatives and senators. Karima, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, April. It's so good to be with you all this morning. I'm Karima, as April mentioned. I'm the policy director for the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And I just want to say thank you so much to the Commission for such a long and enduring partnership. We had a very successful Stand with Survivors Days this year. It included an Advocacy 101 webinar where Cobb DA Flynn Brody came and spoke about his experience as a child witness to domestic violence and all the great work that's going on at the new Family Justice Center in Cobb County. We also heard from senior budget analyst from the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute, Ife Finch Floyd, who gave us a high-level overview of the state budget. Because we had so many new advocates joining us, we also watched a little bit of the How a Bill Becomes a Bill Schoolhouse Rock, little on mute sing-along. It was a really great time. And I appreciate this year, not only did we have the partnership from the Commission, but as always, we had the partnership from the Georgia Network to End Sexual Assault. Jennifer Bivens is the executive director there. And we had Raksha Inc. They joined us as they have for many years now. We also invited for the first time Tahereh Justice Center. The executive director for Tahereh is Vanessa Wilkins, who is also one of our board members. And they joined us for the first time. And it was just such a wonderful event. As luck would have it, the State of the Judiciary was being held at the same time as our Advocacy Day. So we actually got an additional hour that we used to have some tabletop conversations about how some of our legislative priorities will impact survivors. That was actually quite successful, and we're talking about ways to keep as a regular part of our experience, particularly because we have so many new folks coming in into the field or into this experience for the first time. So April mentioned, and I also want to mention really quickly, in addition to Senator Kay Kirkpatrick, we also had a House resolution from Representative Karen Lupton, who also spoke that day. Senator Kirkpatrick spoke that day. Majority Caucus Vice Chairman Houston Gaines spoke, as well as Senator Kim Jackson. So April mentioned one of our legislative priorities this year being address confidentiality. And I just want to give you all a brief overview of what it is, what it does, and how it's going. When I was part of the Georgia Women Policy Institute, I was part of a cohort that was working together on this issue that was brought to us by a survivor who had to essentially carve out her own address protections in order to save her life. Georgia is one of about 8 states that have not expanded address protections for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, trafficking, stalking, dating violence. And what it would do is it would create a program that would be housed in the Secretary of State's office where eligible victims who are moving to a new residence and don't already have a public address, they could keep their address, their actual mailing address, shielded from public view. They'd be given a designated address that they can use for every public agency, and it would provide a mail forwarding service on top of that. In order to be eligible, you need to attest that you feel in fear of your life and that disclosing your address would compromise your safety. And you would need a letter from a victim service provider or mental health provider that indicates that you have received services related to your victimization. And then once you're a participant, you get the card, you have the mail forwarding service. It lasts 4 years, and then you would recertify. We're very proud of this bill. It's gone through one amendment, and that amendment, unfortunately, removed real property protections. They didn't feel like it was viable to keep property protections in, felt like we'd get quite a bit of resistance. So it's not there, but it doesn't mean that it won't be added later. We know that a very small portion of survivors historically in other parts of the country have used this, a very small portion, maybe about 1%, but we want to make sure that we are able to add it later. This is SB 324. It's being sponsored by Senator Kim Jackson. It passed unanimously out of committee. It passed unanimously in the Senate. It crossed over to the House. It's being carried by Vice Chairman Houston Gaines, and it is currently in the Government Affairs Committee. We are, fingers crossed, getting next week. Very excited about that. If we get a hearing and it passes out of committee, we want to get it onto the rules calendar, and it will be voted on the House floor. So that is SB 324. As April mentioned, there are a few bills that we are watching. She talked about 1110. I want to talk briefly about SB 83. This is a bill that passed. It crossed over last year, actually. It is now in the House Judiciary Committee, and there's not a big appetite for it. April mentioned Representative Misha Mainer's bill 1136. And one of the things that it did to get passed is it removed the revision of stalking that occurs in the home. That was clearly a flashpoint issue. People were having a really hard time with it. So she removed that and kept the essence of the bill. Unfortunately, revising that section of the statute or section of the bill would do exactly what SB 83 would do. And that would be to revise the definition of stalking to include stalking that happens in the home. People are really having a hard time with property and wanting to maintain property rights, and not a real clear understanding of how TPOs work. So we're tabling that for now. There may be a possibility that there's something we can do with it at some point. But for now, I think Senator Jackson sees the writing on the wall, and we're just going to table it for now. I know that there are quite a few advocates who've been working on this for a very long time, and we appreciate your advocacy. And this is an election year. It's a red meat year. So just know that it has not been in vain. In addition to working on the dating violence bill, as April mentioned, we're trying to get it attached to another bill that's moving, that's in the same chapter. Preferably that is being sponsored by a Republican, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, so it's something that we're working on. We're not ready to table that one. We know how important it is to make sure that our statute is consistent and that there is an enforcement mechanism for survivors whose abusers have violated dating violence TPOs. So we are still working on that one. There are a couple of bills that I want to just highlight really quickly that we've been working on. And I'll put our website in the chat where you can find all of the bills that we're watching. But there is a bill rather, HB 656, which was or is being sponsored by Vice Chair Matt Reeves. When this bill started, it would revise cruelty to children in the second and third. And I'm really proud of the work that we were all able to do together with the commission, with our our director of the Justice for Incarcerated Survivors program, Ellie Williams, and Maisie Lynn from the Criminal Defense Attorneys and Georgia Justice Project. We all put our heads together to try to figure out the best way to protect victims from being swept up into this bill that initially was written rather broadly, and it would have revised the cruelty to children in the second and third statute by saying that anybody who unintentionally or intentionally allows a child to witness a forcible felony could be charged with cruelty to children in the second. I'm really proud of the work that we did, and even more proud of Chairman Matt Reeves, who was so kind and so compassionate and literally did every single thing we asked him to do to make sure that victims were not unintentionally arrested for staying, for being a victim. Now the bill reads that if you cross state lines to molest a child, essentially, you could be arrested for cruelty to second, even if you don't complete the act. So thank you again to all of our partners for making that happen. The bill did not cross over in time for crossover day, so I'm sure that Chairman Reeves will bring it up again next year. There's another bill, 1367, HB 1367. It would amend the Victims' Compensation Act to include strangulation in non-sexual assault cases. So this is one that is sponsored by Representative Lupton. And the essential issue is that when a non-sexual assault victim has been strangled and needs a strangulation assessment, they have not been able to get these assessments done by SANE nurses or by anyone else who could do it for free, quote unquote. They've been sent to the emergency room. And we know that when folks are sent to the emergency room, 9 times out of 10, they may not stay to get an assessment, particularly if they know that they're going to be charged for it. And that reimbursement may not come or may not come easy. So this bill would have amended the Victims' Compensation Act to make it so that those same nurses who are doing these non-domestic violence strangulation assessments would also get reimbursed for them, because right now they get reimbursed for the ones they do for sexual assault, but not for domestic violence. CJCC requested that this be resolved with an administrative fix. And we've been in talks with them. And I know there are many SANE nurses who have also been in talks with them to make sure that that happens. We know that domestic violence victims historically have had a hard time getting reimbursed through Victims' Comp. And we also know at the same time that Victims' Comp has been very close to the chopping block, just in terms of its ability to remain solvent. The budget, which I'm going to talk about next, our state legislators have been working on the amended 2024 budget and have now, was signed by the governor, and are now working on the FY25 budget. And I will say that every year that we've gone back to the state to ask for more support, more financial support for programs, they have stepped up to the plate, whether it was in the form of ARPA funds that the governor released or increases in our state allocation. They've really stepped up and showed up for survivors. It hasn't been enough. We clearly need more, but they're definitely listening, and we appreciate that. So our state budget in our FY24, the governor, as I mentioned, released more ARPA funds, 24 million ARPA funds, which brings the total to about 96 million. And my apologies if those numbers are just a little bit off, but we're in the ballpark. I'm sorry, y'all. I just lost my notes there. Okay. So what it included was 1.2 million for SANE nurses. I'm sorry, it keeps going out. I'm so sorry. Okay, so last year's FY24 budget for family violence and sexual assault was just over 15 million. It included 1.2 for SANE nurses. That 1.2 was disregarded by Governor Kemp, taking us back to 14.6 total. This year's FY24 amended budget returned some of the sexual assault money for one SANE nurse to be in every state certified sexual assault center, reduced the amount for SANE nurses from 1.2 million to 315,000. And it brought us back to about 14.9. So this is amended budget for FY24. FY25 is still being deliberated. The House submitted their budget proposal for FY25, which included 14.7 for DV state certified domestic violence shelters, and then 6 million for sexual assault centers. And that includes the SANE nurse in every center. It includes funding for satellite sexual assault centers. Our next steps, the Senate Appropriations Subcommittees are holding hearings. CJCC presented in the Public Safety Subcommittee this week. When the Senate releases their budget proposal, the House and the Senate will go into conference committee and then decide on a single budget. And I want to just say really quickly, federally, we've been working really hard with our congressional delegation on VOCA and VAWA. Many of you know that VOCA, our federal VOCA ask was 1.9 billion. Congress has only approved 1.3 billion, which constitutes a 630 million cut to VOCA compared with the 700 million that we were expecting. So thanks to your advocacy, and so many of you have reached out to your delegation member, reached out to your DA and prosecutors to get them to sign on to letters to Congress. And we're getting 153 million more than the initial levels that were in the president's funding budget and earlier versions of the House and Senate. So we're really, really proud of that. And VAWA, Victims of Violence Against Women Act, it was increased by 8 million. And that includes transitional housing, culturally specific services, legal assistance for victims. There were some housing, DV bonus funds. FIPSA will be decided on the next round of budget hearings that we're going to have. The next deadline is March 22nd. So hopefully they will come to a conclusion about FIPSA before then. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat. You can also follow the bills that we're watching on our website as well under the policy section. Does anybody have any questions before I turn it back over to April? I feel like I did a speed round of everything policy. So do feel free to reach out if you have questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karima. And I'll just quickly add, commission members, that, again, I'll refer back to the newsletter that Judge Whitaker talked about earlier. You can see a brief write-up about some of this information in that legislative update section of the newsletter. And there's also a link to the bills we're tracking in the newsletter. So and also, just so you know, I will be updating that spreadsheet that you have, that tracking sheet, which you will always have access to through that link, to include bills that may not, things that we may be working on that aren't yet bills, things that we're considering as legislative priorities, so that we can, when we come together in these legislative sessions during commission meeting, we can also deliberate on what we want to pursue in the coming session year. And I'll quickly just mention.
Can I offer just a super quick update on one of the bills that you mentioned, HB 1010?
Yes.
That is the paid leave bill that that Carolyn and other advocates have been working on. It got a hearing yesterday and it passed out of committee, and it includes an amendment that would require notification so that folks know that paid leave exists and that they can apply for it.
Excellent. That's great news. And I'll just quickly, there's one other someone brought to my attention. HB 509 is a bill that we are working on, negotiating with Representative Mandy Ballinger on. It is to it will update the burglary statute to include, burglary would include an act of family violence. So if you enter the home of another, unauthorized with the intent to commit an act of family violence therein. And so we're working with her on that language to try to clean it up just a tad. She includes kind of a terminology that to me would expand the relationships that would be captured by that, by calling romantic partners instead of dating partners, which is the term used in the dating violence statute, and saying certain family member relationships, I think including, it just says family members instead of the specific relationships that the Family Violence Act names. So we want to we're working with her, and I know, Kareem, I believe you met with Representative Ballinger and suggested some amendments. I know that that's still being, in discussion, but I think it is currently in committee on the Senate in the Judiciary Committee.
Passed out of committee.
It did pass out of committee.
It did pass out of committee, vote 5-4. Just waiting for it to be on the to be presented in rules. We did offer an amendment to Chairman Ballinger, which she has not yet accepted. So if any of you have relationships with Chairman Ballinger and can just kind of nudge her a little bit, that would be great.
All right. If there are any questions, you can certainly ask us now. We still have about 5 minutes left in this section. We're still running right on time. So if anyone's got any thoughts or questions on any of that, any commission members, then I'd be happy to entertain those, and Kareem would be happy to answer. Otherwise, we'd be happy to talk to you offline at any time.
Director Ross, this is Stephen Hatfield. I got a quick comment.
Sure.
Just in reference to the strangulation bill that I know was kind of came up real quick and got to committee real fast. CJCC was trying to review that as quick as we could and figure out exactly what the goal was of that. But of course, just like was mentioned, anything that was adding additional liability to the Victims Compensation Fund that's already in a over $5 million hole, we were trying to be real careful with. Also knowing that the SANE nurses were funded in the amended and the House has added them into the big budget, we are hopeful to try to figure out a way to help fund additional SANE nurses to do that kind of initial assessment on strangulation. Clarification that if there is evidence of a strangulation, to my knowledge, they would have to then be referred to medical care to do proper scans and things to determine if any additional medical care is needed. And at that point, once they are in medical care, any of that could be reimbursed under victims compensation, but it would be something that would be billed to the victim, and then victims compensation would be able to pay. But of course, that's something that is well within the guidelines of us being able to pay. And I heard her say that there was some issues with domestic violence victims being paid through victims compensation, which I think that's kind of a broad statement to make because we paid quite a few over the years. So just if there are any issues with paying any victims, then that's something, please reach out to me or the CJCC staff. We're happy to work through that and make sure that they get paid. But I know in the strangulation exams, the SANEs are not providing the actual medical care if they would be then referring them to medical care. And we're working through ways to be able to pay for those SANEs to do that, because we already, of course, fund quite a few SANEs throughout the state. And with the state funding, we're looking to fund quite a bit more. So that's just kind of a comment on that.
Thank you so much. And that's, I hope that we're able to kind of get to wherever it needs to be on that, because it's so important, not just for the victims, but it's also important for the prosecutors who need that evidence. So strangulation is a challenging, non-fatal strangulations are kind of challenging for prosecutors right now. So anything we can do to help them with that evidence as well is certainly part of the goal. So appreciate that
Absolutely.
comment. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you to both of you for that very informative legislative update. In the minute before I turn to our community spotlight, I knew that when I listed out our new members, I would inevitably leave somebody out. And I also want to welcome Meg Heap, who is one of our newer members. Meg is a former district attorney and current member of the State Board of Arts and Paroles. And we are very excited to have her as well. And just another reminder to everybody, please register through the Google form if you haven't had an opportunity to do that yet. Just look over into the chat and you'll get a link to the Google form to register. And our community spotlight for this meeting is actually going to be on us, on the commission itself. Jamila is going to give us an introduction to the upcoming rules revisions or potential rules revisions to our family violence intervention program. So we are very interested to hear what is going on in that regard. So Jamila, take it away.
Thank you, Judge Whitaker. So again, we're going to be we've been working diligently. Nadej and I, we're the FIP team, and we've been working diligently on the FIP rule revisions, along with April Ross and Stacy Selden, and commission members Charles Sperling, Jamie Borman, and Barbara Neville. So we know that we did revise the rules back in 2019, and since that time, we've had to revise them again. We felt a need to revise them. And before
Jamila, testing.
Uh-oh.
She's frozen.
I'm sure she realizes that, but I'm not sure what we can do about that. What we can do is maybe jump to
Is she
the
trying to
next.
log off?
Are you back with us, Jamila?
I think she logged off. Maybe it's jumping out and coming back.
Yeah.
so weird, I was talking and just going on and on.
Do you need
Where
someone
did I
else to
stop
share
off
the
at?
screen? Would it-
Nobody heard anything other than who was working on it.
Oh, okay. You all hear me now?
We can.
Okay, that was so weird. I went into a whole thing. So I'm just going to start over from the beginning. Okay, y'all can still hear me and see me?
Yes.
Okay, that was so weird. Okay, so I just want to just say we're going to be going over the proposed FIP rule revisions. Nadej Delva, who is the FIP coordinator, and myself, we have been working diligently over the past year or two on the rule revisions, along with April Ross and Stacy Selden, and commission members Charles Sperling, Jamie Borman, and Barbara Neville. We were revising the rules. We sought to revise the rules due to complaints and issues that we've heard from our providers and facilitators, as well as issues that we have identified when we do site visits. We want to make sure that we are, doing the work like it should be done and what's best for the FIP program. Also, we know that we did revise the rules in 2019, but that was a while back. So we do feel like the rules need to be revised now. Again, these are proposed FIP rule revisions. I just want to put that out there because at the time, a lot of people, before the grapevine gets going, I just want to make it known that these are just proposed revisions. These are not approved. So you must still adhere to the current rules that are approved, that are available on our website. I just want to make that quite clear because I don't want people leaving this meeting thinking that these are currently active rules that have been approved. There will be an approval process. There will also be an opportunity for FIP providers and facilitators to give their feedback so that maybe we can look at different rules that might need to be revised as well. So just make sure that, you all know that these are just proposals. Okay, so right now, this is just the statute that gives DCF and GCFV the authority to revise the rules, to enforce the rules, and know that all the rules are available on our website along with the SOPs. So we're extremely transparent. So you can go to the FIP section on our website at any time and get that information. And for those who may not be familiar with FIP, just to give you an overview of what it is, we call it FIP as an acronym. Nationally, it's called BIPs, like Batterer Intervention Programs. But in Georgia, we call them Family Violence Intervention Programs. And there's psychoeducational groups that use a cognitive behavioral approach to make sure that perpetrators of domestic violence are held accountable while focusing on victim safety. So that's very important to the FIP program. And we have all the information about what it entails on our website as well. So we're going to start out with the proposed FIP facilitator rule revision. So as many of you know, we certify facilitators as well as providers. Some of the revisions will overlap, but there are some specific revisions that are specifically for facilitators and some that are specifically for providers. So the background check. We always do a background check on anyone seeking certification, but that's usually at the end of the certification process. The change that we're making now is that before anyone starts taking all the FIP classes, educational classes, attending all the task force meetings, before they start any of the requirements, we're going to run their background. And that's going to be at the beginning of the certification process. So if there's anything on that person's background that will prohibit them from moving forward in the certification process, they can stop now, or they can, try and resolve the issue that is prohibiting them from becoming certified. So again, we're still going to do the background check. It's just going to be at the beginning of the process and not at the end when they submit the application. The second change that we're making is the training. The training requirement. So currently the way we have it in the rules is that you have 3 years to complete all of the requirements. We are moving that to 2 years because we felt like it was being stretched out too long. And a lot of the facilitators were out of compliance, not the facilitators, but the applicants were out of compliance with their requirements when it came down to certification. So we shortened the time of, when you can get those hours in, and it will coincide with a lot of the other revisions that we're making to the other training requirements that we're making. An informational session. So everyone seeking certification will be required to attend an informational session. It will be free of charge. It's for facilitators as well as providers, because what we're experiencing is that when we do FIP Basics, that's the training that all facilitators must take in order to become certified. People are not aware of what FIP is and what it entails to be a facilitator. So what we will do in this informational session is go through all the steps that a provider as well as a facilitator will need to take in order to become certified, as well as how to maintain certification. Because a lot of the facilitators, once they attend day one of FIP Basics, they're overwhelmed with the level of training that they have to complete and all the requirements. So we want to let you know upfront, the informational session is free of charge, so there won't be any cost involved, but it will let you know exactly what you need to do in order to be certified. Okay, so FIP Basics. So FIP Basics will still be a requirement, but what we are doing is taking it to a 2-day training instead of a 3-day training. So it'll just be a 16-hour training. It'll be, 16 hours opposed to the 20. Well, actually, it'll be 14. That's a misprint. And the reason why we're doing that is because of the informational session that we're going to be having in the beginning. So the informational session will take the place of FIP Basics day 1. So we are cutting the hours down on the FIP Basics requirement. The commission approved training requirements. So again, this is for initial certification to become a facilitator. Currently, it's at 40 hours. And what we have been experiencing is that a lot of facilitators, they're not, the applicants for certification, again, they're overwhelmed. It's expensive, and a lot of them are not completing the requirements. Or if they are trying to complete it, they're out of compliance with the dates of when they need to complete it, because a lot of the trainings are expensive, especially the curriculum trainings. So we have moved that requirement down from 40 hours to 20 hours, and it must be completed within a 2-year time frame. Okay, so this is the attendance policy for task force meetings. So currently, the way it reads in the rules for initial certification, facilitators seeking certification must complete 15 hours. But as we've experienced and what many of you know, meetings, everybody doesn't meet all the time. And that is a hard requirement to obtain. So we have made it, the requirement to match what is for already certified facilitators. So they'll just need to complete 6 meetings, within the 2-year time frame. So instead of adding that 15-hour requirement, they'll have 6 meetings. So we'll remove that. So it'll align with what the already certified facilitators are doing. The victim advocacy, community education and victim advocacy requirement. That's another one that we're decreasing. So currently, right now, for initial applicants for certification, they're required to complete 40 hours. So we have moved that to 20 hours as well, because again, a lot of them have a hard time meeting this requirement due to the resources that are available. And since we did shorten the time frame to 2 years, we want to make sure that it is obtainable for them to do that. So we have decreased that to 20 hours from 40 hours. Okay, so the participant observer requirement. We want to make this easier for those who are completing the certification requirement, and it's easier to track with it this way by counting the classes instead of counting the hours. So right now, as the rules read, is 36 hours to complete. But if we're moving it to 12 classes. So instead of people trying to say, okay, I observed the class with this facilitator, it was 2 hours, trying to make sure you fall within the lines of what the actual hours were. We're just going to do it by classes. So again, that does help with applicants meeting that 2-year time frame to complete the requirements. And it's easier to track. And we're also changing the requirement to 12 classes for the co-facilitation. So again, we had that at 36 hours as well. So now we've moved it down to 12 classes as well. So it's the same reason why we did it for the observer hours. We're doing it for the co-facilitation hours. The class ratio. So this has been a major debate for many years about the class ratio. So we didn't expand it as large as many people will want, but we did give a little leeway to allow more participants to be in a class. So currently, as the rules stand, there is 1 certified facilitator to 8 participants, or 2 certified facilitators to 16 participants. So currently, we have made the adjustment to have it where there's 1 certified facilitator to 10 participants. So we increased the number to 10. And you can have 2 facilitators for 11 or more, up to 20 participants in a class. So we did give a little leeway for the class ratio. And this was a change that, we went through a lot of back and forth on, but we felt it was necessary because we were hearing that a lot of providers were not able to meet the requirements of having additional staff, because it's expensive to hire staff to facilitate classes for just maybe 1 extra participant or 2 extra participants. So this allows the program to be able to allow more participants to enroll and, maybe under 1 certified facilitator. So that's why we were able to expand this. And we didn't want to expand it too much because every facilitator's skill set is a little different. So we didn't want to make it so large that it's not manageable for facilitators. Virtual online classes. Okay, so as you know, in the current rules, it's a prohibited practice to do online. We only had in-person classes. But when the pandemic happened, we were forced to adjust. We wanted to make sure services were still being rendered. So we received a waiver from DCS to allow FFs to provide virtual online classes. So we are putting this permanently in the rules. So providers will be able to offer this on a permanent basis. But we will be outlining some guidelines and rules that must be followed for the virtual online classes. The principles of practice. So again, this is a rule that's currently in the rules, but it doesn't speak to virtual classes. So we want to make sure that if you are facilitating a virtual class, that you do have the principles of practice visible in your classroom in some type of way. And either you could post it in the chat for the participants to view, or you can do what I'm doing right now, have it share your screen maybe at the beginning of the class with it available for people to see, but it has to be visible in the class if you're going to be doing virtual classes. So we're adding that language to the rules. The tardy policy. So there's been a lot of confusion around the tardy policy. Some programs thought that, okay, maybe 1, 2 tardy, and then on the third one, that's the absence. Or they get 3, and then when the fourth one, that's the absence. So to alleviate the confusion, what we decided to do was get the tardy policy to mirror the attendance policy. So if they are on the fourth tardy, that will be the absence. That will result in an absence for that participant. Currently, we have, if you're allowed 3 absences, but on the fourth absence, that's when you will be terminated. So on the fourth tardy, that's when you will accrue an absence. And they can only use this policy once. It doesn't mean that, okay, if this participant has already received 3 tardies, they start over again with 3 more tardies. It's a one-time policy. So this was, this revision was made just to alleviate confusion around this policy. The deficiency progression chart. So currently, when Nadej or myself would do a site visit, a lot of facilitators and providers would be confused as to when they receive notices of deficiencies, why they're being charged this way or why they're being sanctioned. Although everything is outlined in the rules, we want to make it more transparent for you to see exactly, if I do this, this is the consequence. So we just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page so that it's an easy, consistent process for everyone across the board. So we just want to make sure that if we are sanctioning a provider or a facilitator, that it's out there for you to see, if I do this, this is what's going to happen. So we just want to make that sure. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the rule revisions for providers. So program ownership. So providers are the owners of the program. So we have added a provision that an individual can only hold 1 provider certification and only own 1 program. This rule was implemented because we had a particular provider in particular, but then we had others who were opening additional programs under different names to escape enforcement actions. So if they were shut down under this program, all they did was transfer participants over to their other program. So we had nothing in the rules to prohibit this from happening. So at the end of the day, we decided that what we will do is, if you are a program owner and your name is listed as an owner of a program, you can only own 1 program. Not saying locations, we're talking about programs. So if I had Jamila Farrell FFIP, I couldn't go and open Brown FFIP on the other side. I can only have Jamila Farrell FFIP, and I can have several locations throughout the state, but it will fall under the umbrella of that same provider. So we don't want providers opening up more programs under different names. So this will definitely go, if this is approved, that will happen. And those programs that are operating like this, they will have to make a decision on what they want to do as far as their program. The informational session. So as I mentioned earlier in the facilitator portion of the rule revision, we're going to also require that providers come to the informational session as well, because what we're noticing is that when site visits are conducted, administrative audits are conducted, a lot of rule violations are happening because the providers are not aware of what the rules are. Granted, the rules are available on our website. And of course, ignorance should not be an excuse for the law. But a lot of people are saying to us, they would like to know, they would have liked a session, an informational session, so they'll know exactly what's what. And I do believe that that is fair. So before they get started with, deciding if they want to open a program, they will be required to attend the informational session as well. So this is a new requirement, but they will be required to attend this. Also, what we're adding to the providers is that they will be required to take FFIP basics. What we've learned, again, when we're doing administrative audits, a lot of providers are not aware of what the rules are for FFIP. What are some of the practices or procedures that should be conducted? So we want to make sure they go through the same training, because currently, as it states, FFIP providers, they can just fill out an application and pay the fee. They don't have any training requirements that they must go through. So they're depending their program to be operated properly by the facilitators they hire. But a lot of the administrative tasks are the responsibilities of the providers. So it is they're going to have to go through FFIP basics before they can open a program. Okay, the provider application fees. So we have heard you. We've heard a lot of providers complain to us about the excessive fees if they own multiple, if they have programs in multiple locations. Because the way the rules read now, you pay per judicial circuit when you submit your application. So what we're going to do, what we're proposing is that there's a flat rate application fee. And that in addition, if you do decide to add like additional virtual classes, there will be an additional fee for that, but it won't be as large as the $250. It'll be an additional fee just for the add-on of the virtual classes. So that's something that we definitely heard, that it was becoming too expensive to be an FFIP provider. And we did lose a significant number of programs during the pandemic because fiscally, a lot of programs could not sustain themselves. So hopefully this will help with the sustainability of some of our providers. The certification timing. So currently, as the rules read, providers can only submit initial certification applications on January the 1st and July 1st. So what we're going to do, and a lot of times they are also going through the facilitator process. So we want to make sure that, they have the same opportunity to open their program when they're ready to submit their application as a facilitator. So we've changed that requirement from January 1st and July 1st to an ongoing basis, just like we have the facilitators. So it'll be an ongoing certification application period and not just 2 times a year. Again, we're allowing the virtual online classes, as I explained earlier. This was something that was prohibited in the rules prior to that, but we are allowing it now. This is what we want to make it permanent in the rules. The class ratio, I went over that in the facilitator, is the same. It's a requirement of the provider that they make sure that their classes do meet the class ratio requirement. It is responsibility of the provider as well as the facilitator to make sure that this rule is followed, because if we do a site visit, both parties can be sanctioned if this is a violation. The tardy policy, it's going to be updated under the providers as well. And we will also be adding a deficiency progression chart for the deficiencies that a provider can receive. So again, so that we can be transparent when it's time to do the notice of deficiencies. And at this moment, this concludes my report. This is my contact information as well as Nadejda's. If you have any further questions at the end of this meeting, we will have a public comment period. So please feel free to fill out that form that Stacy's been putting in the chat so that we can identify you at the end of the meeting. If you have a question, if time permits for us to answer all of them, but if not, Nadejda and I will certainly answer your questions at a later date. But currently right now, we're going to open the floor for questions from just commission members.
And very quickly, I'll just add that Jamila's presentation, I know some people reached out to me and asked would it be shared. This is the initial proposal that is going to legal right now, and then will be shared with commission members to review for a vote coming up in June for the commission members to vote to approve these. So Jamila will put together a document in terms of what will be shared with the FVIPs and providers that are interested in seeing what the proposal is. So just stay tuned. You will get this information. This was just an introductory presentation just to kind of give everybody a little explanation before you see the document between now and June. And so any questions, any thoughts from commission members? Okay.
And again, I just want to say these are proposed, they're not approved. I just want to say that.
And April, I'd like to add that these rules are not just arbitrarily created and thrown against the wall to see what sticks. There's a process, and the commission, April and her team are not the only folks who are looking at this. So, as I've had sidebar conversations about these rules, I just want to reiterate that it's not just an internal decision. So there are some rules that this team has to apply in even creating the suggestions that they're bringing to legal. So just keep that in mind as we, because I operate in FVIP as well, as we continue to look to improve rules, to improve accountability for providers and the folks that we serve. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And
I just want to say to the,
go ahead, Jamila.
I just want to say to the FFIPs on the call, just let you know, Charles definitely is a great sounding board for you all. He is your voice on the commission, and he definitely brings forth a lot of information that we definitely use. So we do appreciate him. And trust me, he speaks up for you all a lot. So I just want to let y'all know that.
And I'll just quickly share a little bit. I don't have the outline of the full process, but I know some folks may be wondering if this happens, if we're moving forward, when will this go into effect? When will the changes happen? What is the process? So right now, the proposal that you just saw from Jamila, those documents and a draft of the changes in the rules is going to our legal team at DCS. Once they have approved it, it'll come back to this commission, and the commission members will receive it, like I said, after they send it back to us. Commission members will receive it between now and June. When it comes back to us in June, commission members will vote to approve it. And their approval will mean that I can move it to the DCS board. The DCS board, because technically we're administratively attached to DCS board actually has the authority to approve them to move forward for public comment. Once the DCS board approves them, assuming there's no changes in that, this process can take, it's not easy to predict how long it will take, but once the DCS board has reviewed it and approved it, assuming no changes are going back and forth in that time frame, then it will go to a public comment period. I don't have the exact number of days, but I think there might be a 30-day public comment period. But we'll send out that information once I have it for sure. I'll send out the actual outline of the process. The public comment period may end up, there may be information from that causes us to go up and make more changes. So then it has to go back through the process of getting approved again. And so once the final approved rules have been drafted and finalized, it's been through public comment, there's no more changes to be made, then the DCS board will vote to approve the final rules. And that is when they will be enacted. They may choose, our goal is to have the enactment date by January 1 of 2025. But I think that's the earliest we would be likely to get them enacted. So we shall see.
All right. Thanks to everybody for your hard work on that. And we know that it's a work in progress, and we will look forward to seeing the final presented to us hopefully in June. All right. At this point, Vice Chair Sperling is going to lead us through our new business.
Thank you, Judge Whitaker. I have one item for sure. You mentioned at the top of the hour, and that is Peggy Wilson's departure from as secretary from the commission. That was as of 12/31, and that position is open. So I just want to invite folks to do some soul searching. There are some talented people on this call, and taking a look at your willingness, your time, your talent, and your skill set. We don't do this work without volunteers. We don't do this work without people having a heart for the work. So I want to encourage folks to step back and take a look at who they are and in terms of their skill set and their willingness to serve, and reach out to April's team to bring your name forward to be considered as the secretary on this commission. And we're hopeful that we'll have more than one. We'll have some people to choose from. It is rewarding work, particularly when we're able to speak to this issue of domestic violence in a measurable kind of way. So I'm encouraged, and I want to encourage you. So please, step out, I ain't gonna say take a risk, but put your feet in the fire, so to speak. Roll your sleeves up. There's a lot of expressions I can use, but come aboard and join us so that so we can continue this important work. That's the only issue I wanted to bring about in terms of new business. April, is there anything that I missed that I should mention?
No, I think that covers it. And I'll just add that, the commission members, again, we also know that you all have very busy schedules and time commitments. So we do work to make the role of secretary as burdenless as possible. So we will assist with minutes, production, and various things that the secretary role does. But we really do need to have someone. Oh, we have interest.
Yes.
Someone has come forth.
Yes.
Is a willing victim. There we are. So then if Barbara is ready if she's presenting herself as a candidate, then the commission could vote if you guys would like. Judge Whitaker will decide that. And
I say let's strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah.
all right, then we need a motion on the floor.
All right, I move that we approve the ascension of, is it Barbara Neville who's volunteering to the position of secretary, and would love to have a second to that.
I second.
All right, if there are any who are opposed, if you could raise your hand. I think it's unanimous.
Yes.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you. We really appreciate that. And on our agenda, it looked like maybe we wanted to mention, I guess, encourage everybody to check your contact information in the newsletter for the directory and make sure that we have got all of your contact information and that it is all correct. I think that was the other item of new business. And at this point, we are going to move to the staff updates. And the first person we're going to hear from is Stacy Selden on the Family Violence Task Forces.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give you a task force update. The first update I want to give you is that we have scheduled our first task force summits for this year. They'll be in June 2023. So we're really excited about that. And those are day-long trainings that we're bringing directly to the communities. One is going to be in Dalton and the other one will be in McDonough. I'm going to go over some accomplishments that the task forces reported in 2023, and then some of their goals that they're going to be working on this year, and also some of the technical assistance requests they've asked of me. So some of the accomplishments in 2023 they reported was that they connected the task force with the local medical community. They maintained key stakeholder engagement with the task force. They provided education on stalking and the dynamics of intimate partner violence. One task force held a 250 participant senior expo with elder abuse resources, education, lunch, and entertainment. Another task force held a family violence conference that provided education on intimate partner violence and sexual assault to over 125 community members. They hosted the annual meet and greet. They held fundraising events. They hosted the DVAM awareness event. Another task force also held a 4-county teen maze event that included a resource table on teen dating violence, sexual violence, and human trafficking. And another task force collaborated with the local school to create and launch a teen dating violence PSA via social media and within the community. So that's an overview of some of their accomplishments from 2023. And some of the task force goals they reported for this year is to collaborate with the local university on intimate partner violence awareness, to plan and deliver their annual fundraiser event, to revamp roll call training to law enforcement, to develop their committees out more, to increase participation and build member engagement. Another task force wants to develop their support for survivors of murder-suicide committee, and Kylie has definitely been instrumental in helping with that. Another task force wants to engage more community leaders and specifically public defenders and civil attorneys, provide training for FIP providers, advocates, and attorneys, and develop subcommittees that serve the community's needs. And then some of the technical assistance requests that we've been asked for is to support them with targeted topical training and community education. We've also been asked for template letters to help inform the courts and the probation community about the importance of task forces. We've been asked for statewide training opportunities, which we're delivering with the task force summits. We plan to have 2 more in South Georgia in later on this year, maybe around November. And then other task forces have asked for training and education on FIP programs. And so I'm going to go over our list of our circuits without a task force. If you have any contacts in those circuits, please let me know. Please connect me. The following circuits do not currently have active task forces: Atlantic, Middle, Oconee, Patala, Paulding, Rome, South Georgia, Southwestern, and Tallapoosa. And I just want to give a special thanks to Judge Bishop, who actually gave me leads on 3 task forces, 3 judicial circuits that don't have task forces. So I appreciate Judge Bishop for doing that. If you have any contacts that you know of in these judicial circuits, my contact information is on your report, so please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And we are going to hear from Summer on our Family Violence Fatality Review Project.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. So I work on the Family Violence Fatality Review Project with our Fatality Review Coordinator, Carolyn Brooks. Like April said, she's on maternity leave, so I will be giving our joint update. So at the beginning of the year, we developed our annual strategic project plan. We also published our latest report, Walking the Line, Navigating Duty and Discretion in Responding to Family Violence. This report explores the gender difference observed in arrest rate in family violence incidents and includes recommendations for law enforcement agencies. We will also publish our annual fact sheet and later in the year, a new report focusing on recent trends in murder-suicide incidents. Our 2023 DV fatality numbers have been verified. The final numbers are 129 fatal incidents with 159 fatalities. This is a 21% decrease from 2022, and 33 murder-suicide incidents with 58 fatalities. This is also a 21% decrease from 2022. However, the number of fatalities is updated as new information becomes available, so these numbers will likely go up. The 2023 Remember My Name list will be distributed in August. And in terms of training, we will hold 4 task force summits. They will be full-day regional trainings scheduled for June, July, and November. And we will also hold a 2-day law enforcement training hosted at GIPSTIG in September. This year, our data management focus includes completing the in-depth murder-suicide analysis for our upcoming report, organizing the FIP data to better track and evaluate the efficiency of the programs, and we will also publish data tables that can be filtered to create customized reports on our website and continue to explore new data sources. That's all I have.
Thank you. And on support for survivors of murder-suicide, I think Kylie is going to be given that report.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so as Summer just shared, she shared our latest numbers. Our total number of murder-suicides for 2023 was 33. That was 21 completed murder-suicides and an additional 12 where there was an attempted murder-suicide and at least one person survived. That number does represent a pretty significant 21% decrease from the last couple of years. It's really our first decrease in trends are our lowest numbers since 2020. So we're excited to see that decrease. But the trends are still very high. Still, everything is still significantly higher than before COVID, before 2020. And with that, we are still providing tons and increased services every quarter. Our number of survivors we're serving remains high, and the number of services we're providing increases every quarter. In the final quarter of 2023, my report showed that I had over 342 contacts and referrals that I made for over 50 new and existing survivors of murder-suicide. That represents nearly a 65% increase in services rendered compared to the prior quarter. So really the needs are really kind of increasing and ramping up. Part of that's because they're just, their needs are not being met by other service providers. These people aren't having contact with their community-based service providers on a routine basis prior to their contact with us. So we want to continue to partner with our community-based service providers so that we can provide a holistic approach for helping survivors of murder-suicide. Top priorities or top requests for survivors of murder-suicide continue to be things involving financial needs, things as basic as groceries and housing can continue to be important. We have to meet those needs or help them meet those needs first before they can usually address the mental and emotional needs, health needs that they have. And so we're continuing to try to make referrals to help them get those done so that they can move on to addressing things with regard to counseling and other things to promote healing. With regard to the Georgia Murder-Suicide Response Network and the support groups, on February 16th, just a few weeks ago, we launched our 6th round of the Murder-Suicide Support Group. It is undoubtedly providing healing and support to survivors, and it's doing great work for those that are in it. Undoubtedly, our biggest challenge is continuing to make sure survivors know about these opportunities. So we would love any community partners that want to continue to help us push that information out by sharing it on their social media pages or sharing it with survivors. We can send you postcards and we can send you handouts as needed. If you have any interest in printed materials, we have those as well. You can certainly reach out to me and I can mail those to you. We will have 2 more groups starting probably this summer, another restorative retelling group for our survivors of murder-suicide. And then we hope to have our first round of what I'm very excited to be is a group for our injured survivors. So this would be for those who have survived an attempted murder-suicide, likely with some kind of injury. We're going to have a special group for that population. I think that is desperately needed, and we'll be welcoming that opportunity. Other things we're doing is a lot of community-based technical assistance with task forces, helping them get things going, meeting the needs of those in their community. As Stacy said, we are partnering both Fatality Review Task Force and Murder-Suicide are partnering, and we are bringing this year task force summits, which are full-day trainings to our communities. We are planning between 2 to 4 to finish in calendar year 2024. So we are excited to do that. And murder-suicide training will be a significant component of that training. And then I just want to promote one last thing before I stop, before our next meeting, is that we are going to, the Murder-Suicide Project and the Commission will be promoting a webinar in May. And I would love for you guys all to consider going to our website and signing up for it. It is a free webinar provided by an author and scholar on a topic called The Perversion of Virtue, Understanding Murder-Suicide by Thomas Joyner. It will be from 10 to 11:30 on Tuesday, May 21st. So I hope to see a lot of you make it to the website and sign up for that. I think it's going to be a really interesting webinar where so many survivors and a lot of people that are helping survivors, there's a lot of confusion about why someone would do such a thing. Right? Why would someone choose to take another life before they could take their own? Why would that happen? And this author has a really compelling argument to make for that topic. So I encourage a lot of you to join. There will be CEs for that webinar. So check it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That sounds like a fascinating webinar, so hopefully a lot of us can join that. Our next update is going to be on our FLAG project, our Firearms Lethality Alert Georgia, and Jackie is going to tell us about that.
Good morning, everyone. I am reporting on our FLAG Firearms Lethality Alert Georgia project. We are currently improving knowledge and awareness among stakeholders with presentations that provide an overview of the problem of abuser access to firearms and the impact on victim and public safety. These presentations and information sessions review the laws that govern the issue of firearms and domestic violence, examine the National Instant Background Check System with a focus on the Denial Notification Act, and review the protocols pertaining to receiving and processing denial notifications to increase victim safety. This quarter, I presented to the Georgia Sheriff's Association at their winter conference, and I have scheduled a presentation for the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police for their summer conference. We are currently working on a grant award modification that will enhance our objective of alerting victims when an abuser attempts to purchase a firearm. We are proposing to designate victim notifications to law enforcement agencies who receive the NICS denial notifications directly from the FBI. Upon receipt of these denial notifications, the local law enforcement agency can act in the most timely manner to alert the victim of a potential risk. We are furthering our goal of creating a model community response protocol as we continue to collaborate with our multidisciplinary team and community consultation partners. The next MDT meeting is scheduled for April 5th. And we are going through some changes, but I want to just reiterate that our project is committed to enhancing victim safety and improving offender accountability relating to the issue of firearms and domestic violence. Our grant technical assistance team is hosting an all sites meeting on July 29th in Denver, Colorado. And the purpose of the meeting is to provide in-person expertise and training to reinforce program-specific goals and objectives, which will strengthen our program. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next thing we're going to do is hear from our director, April Ross, with her remarks. And after I turn it over to April, today is International Women's Day, and as part of International Women's Day, I'm actually participating in a mentoring lunch, so I am going to have to leave a few minutes early, and Vice Chair Sperling is going to handle the rest of the meeting. So thank you all. It's been wonderful to be with you, and Director Ross, if you could give us the remarks.
Thank you. And I'll quickly let Nadej do I think she may have a couple of more items on the Family Violence Intervention Programs work, and then I'll jump in.
Good morning. My name is Nadej. I'm the Family Violence Coordinator. The FVIP team held the first FVIP Basics for 2024. The training was held on February 26 to 28. The team is diligently revamping FVIP Basics to roll out at the beginning of January 2025. The next FVIP Basics is scheduled for May 14th through 16th, 2024 of this year. The team will begin conducting refresher training, focusing on the FVIP participant transfer, recertification, and program closure processes. The FVIP team has completed the first phase of the rule revision. The rules have been sent out to the FVIP subcommittee and legal for review. The team will start site visits and administrative audits at the beginning of April. The FVIP team completed the January 2024 recertification process. A total of 66 facilitators and 21 providers recertified. 4 providers did not recertify. Of those who did not recertify, 2 retired and 2 did not resubmit their applications and are currently in noncompliance. 10 facilitators did not recertify, and of those facilitators, 9 retired and 1 was suspended due to noncompliance. FVIP, however, did gain 2 new providers and 4 new facilitators. The team is preparing to send email reminders to providers with certifications expiring in July 2024. The FVIP team continues distributing the FVIP Update newsletter with the latest edition disseminated in early this week. This newsletter will serve as an information source for FVIP providers and facilitators. The newsletter will also highlight FVIPs doing outstanding work in their community, job announcements, and an FVIP corner that will submitted that will have contents that were submitted by FVIP facilitators as well as providers. And that's it for our team.
All right, thank you, Nadesh. All right, I'll bring it home. Thank you, everybody, again for hanging in there with our meeting, our public meeting for the year, for the first meeting of the year. I have a few items I'll just run through as updates. I'll start with our grants. Last time I reported that we had received our award notification for VOCA funding, but since then we have also now received our VAWA award notifications, and I'm happy to report that we received ample funding for what we requested in both of our projects, the Fatality Review Project as well as the Law Enforcement Training Project. And we've got great plans ahead for both of those in terms of what they'll be working on. I will say thank you again to the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence for joining us at this meeting and for partnering with us for Stand With Survivors Day. We enjoyed the events as well as being a partner in that experience. We look forward to the next year, and I'll make sure going forward that commission members are getting all of the registration information so that you guys can hopefully jump in and attend at least one of the 2 days. We have a 2-part kind of format, so you can at least attend the online webinar if you're not able to join us for the actual day at the Capitol. Another training update. I think I mentioned back in December that we were partnering with the Office of Child Support Services to begin helping deliver domestic violence training to child support personnel for the first time. We are very near beginning those training programs. In January, I believe it was January, this year's already moving so fast. January, I think it was. The end of January, Kylie, Nadej, and I all joined their team for a week-long process mapping experience, which really opened my eyes to just how complex and challenging the child support process can be for individuals. And so for someone that's experiencing domestic violence on top of that and still needs to get support from that person who has been abusive, it's got to be certainly a very scary and intimidating process. But we don't want those folks not able to get the support they need because of fear and safety issues. So we're going to work with them. We learned a lot in terms of their process, and we were able to look at their process and look at points. We called them pressure points where there could be safety concerns, so that we can look at how we change that process to make it safer and more accessible for victims of domestic violence. So we'll continue working with them on that mapping, on process mapping and getting their new plan in place. They hope to launch that, I think, within the next year to 2 years. That's a 3 or 5 year grant, I'm not sure, but they have a plan for when they want to implement. So that was very exciting. The next thing I know is we've talked about it a few times in here. I'm so happy you guys got the newsletter. I hope you had a chance to take a look at it, but just a few things about it. It is going to be sort of your always kind of go-to place for if you're looking for something that we are providing for commission members. So there's always going to be a resource page in that newsletter for you to go and click on those hyperlinks to access the things you need. You will also see on that resource page something called the member resource folder. I've created a folder that's going to just sort of store all of the things you might want to see in one place. So a few things that you'll find in there will be a folder that has all of the meeting minutes from past commission members, commission meetings, as well as the agendas. Any reports that are released by Summer and Carolyn from the Fatality Review, even though they're on our website, I'm going to make a folder just for you guys. So you'll be able to get directly into our reports if you want to see those. The directory will be there. So you can always go and find contact information for one of us or one of you. So there's going to be a lot of things in there that I just want you to start thinking of that newsletter as where you go to get information. I think I highlighted it last time, but I hope you get to see the kudos section of the newspaper. We highlighted Kylie's work from the Christmas experience, and I hope you get a chance to read her message in the newsletter about delivering those gifts to the kids. It's just such a moving you know, story of what happened, and I just love reading it every time. So if you have any questions or ideas or need information, reach out to us. Let me know. If you've got ideas about the newsletter or want to see something else in there, please let me know. So this is a beginning process, and we're happy to do whatever we need to do to make this informative for you. One thing I'll say about the directory, I added, and I went and Googled a lot of y'all and found your pictures from like 20, maybe 30 years ago. But I dropped in any pictures I could find of you. So if you have a better picture or a picture you like, or I couldn't find a picture, feel free to send me a headshot and I will include it in the newsletter. And if there's any information in your section of the newsletter that needs to be updated, from your title, the way your name is presented, all the way down to your address and contact information, please send me that information and I will update it immediately. Right now, just going to our appointments, we are in a great position. I'll be happy to say that with all of these new appointments and the recent reappointments we got, we only have 2 vacancies that we're looking to fill. And I've already submitted a request on one of those 2. So we are looking for the first time in a while at being back fully stocked and loaded. So really excited about the committee work that we're going to begin. You'll be getting more information too. And I think an email has or will go out this week for the FVIP Task Force Committee. And in the member resource folder, you'll find a list of committee assignments. If you would like a different assignment, please let me know. If you want to jump on like more than one committee, we're happy to help and accommodate. Just let me know. So we're really excited to begin working with you guys. There's a lot of work to do. On that, I'll switch over and just add that with the budget that Karima talked about earlier, there's actually some exciting news specifically for us. We received appropriations in the FY24 budget, the amended FY24 budget, and I believe I know there are additional appropriations added for us that are being considered for the FY25 budget. One of the big items that we're excited about is money to support work for updating the state plan and some of our and our protocols. So we are going to be looking at getting a steering committee together to begin preparing the work for that. We've got funding that can be used for contracts. We've got funding to be able to help reimburse for mileage or any expenses for any members of the steering committee. And we've got funding to help support the any expenses that related to research and data collection that might be needed for that. So we're looking at getting that started very soon, and as soon as those funds are released and available, and we are hoping that some of you will be ready to be a part of that. The last piece I have is, I think Summer talked a little bit about the data initiatives. Summer, Jamila, and I recently had a great meeting with a group out of Rhode Island. They just released a data dashboard, an interactive data dashboard on their website, on their public website, that is like Our Vision Realized. They're one of the first to do it, and it is a really robust data dashboard. And Summer's been working on developing one for us for a while. So we were talking to them just to kind of share ideas and learn what their process was like. Jamila or Summer, I don't know if you guys have the link to that. If you want to drop it in the chat so folks are able to take a look at that. But we would love to get our data available to the public. And so that's a big piece of what we'll be working on. And we'll be talking about that in some of the committees. And finally, I think I'll just kind of quickly run down our main focuses for 2024. As Jamila has so eloquently presented, our rules revision is a big, big deal. We're really working to make that a reality. And we're open to feedback, happy to hear what anyone's got to say that will help us move forward. We're looking for any ideas, thoughts, concerns, anything you have. So please, Jamila will create a communication loop for providers and facilitators. Commission members, you know how to reach us, and you'll get that information. So we want to hear your thoughts on it. We're also, again, the state plan and some of our model protocols. We're going to be updating the law enforcement model protocol as well as some others, expanding our data and research and accessibility to it. We're improving on our legislative agenda. So the legislative committee will begin meeting ASAP after the session wraps up to start talking about what are our priorities going forward, what new ideas are out there, what partners of ours have legislative priorities that we would like to support and collaborate on. So that's what the legislative committee will begin working on very soon. We're also looking to really spend a lot of time this year focusing on expanding our communication and public engagement. So if one step of that was the newsletter you began receiving, but we're also looking at expanding that to a communication loop for us that's with the public. Social media is one way we're considering that, or maybe a public newsletter. So we're looking at different ways to open our communication flow, and any ideas and help with collaborating on that, we're happy to include you in that committee. Kylie talked about the support group growth. Really excited about how it's growing and developing and expanding and what it's doing for people around the state. We need to help get the word out about these support groups. It is a free resource that only Georgia offers to people. That is clinicians, trained, certified people who can help you work through that emotional trauma. That's just not offered anywhere else. We've got people that go through the trauma themselves and try to put together their own support groups. And that's a difficult thing to do. So many of those don't survive. But we now have a permanent program that gives you 10 weeks of support with a group of people who are also experiencing similar things. And it's just an amazing and moving experience for those people. And so help us spread the word on that. If you've got social media pages on your in your organization and you are willing to share the murder suicide support group information, let me know so Kylie can get you the deck of I guess social media content. I don't know what you call it, the posting things, you know. So let us know. We really want to get the word out. People need to know this. There's enough people out there that are affected by this that we want to make sure that they know what we have that can help them. And that's all I have. I thank you again for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Charles.
Thank you, April. I just want to echo the importance of these support groups that Callie talked a little bit about. It is so important and an important resource for folks who would otherwise have to pay for those things, and they're absolutely free. The other thing I want to echo is that I am so thankful Barbara Neville stepped up to volunteer for that position for secretary. My heart jumped, so I'm so thankful for that. I want to publicly acknowledge that. Yes. So the need is great, and we don't have to look far. Every time you turn your TV set on, we see the need. The need is great. Every time you visit a shelter or hear from a shelter worker, we know that the need is great. Every time an FVIP opens up a class and we listen to the guys or the women, whoever are in class, report the challenges that they have and how they are dealing with it, we know that the need is great. So even closer to that, even in our communities, we don't have to look far to know that the need is great. So we have to continue to do this work that we do and do it with enthusiasm. So I am so thankful that this team comes together on a regular basis, and quarterly we come together to give you these reports. These reports not only inform, but they should encourage. So I'm excited about that as well. Another round of consideration, applause, and a pointed reflection on International Women's Day. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge that and also mention the contributions of women internationally to the quality of our lives. So thank you so much that this particular issue now is being acknowledged, or this day is being acknowledged, and we appreciate it. That's all I have. I want to close this meeting. It's about 11:47. You get a few minutes back, but thank you so much for your time and your talent and your attention. This meeting is officially closed. Thank you so much.
Charles?
Oh, come on.
We have some public comment.
Oh, yes. Hey, look, and Jamil, let me tell you what's funny. I got this big note on my paper, right? Public comment. So, all right, let me pause. We know we had an opportunity in the chat to put your request in for public comments, and they are limited to 2 minutes. And now we'll open the floor for those. Forgive me. Thank you, Jamila.
Okay, can I just jump in?
Oh, we were going to introduce. So
Okay.
Gail Rogers. Yeah, you're on.
All right, thank you, Jamila and Charles. And I just wanted to say that I'm on that team with Carolyn of the GWPI team that worked on the HB 1010. And we are super excited about that, the movement of that bill. Equally excited, I would like to lift up in honor of International Women's Month or whatever, but we have a phenomenal woman amongst us, and that's April Ross. She is being celebrated as a recipient of the YWCA's Women Achievement Awards next month in April. So however you choose, if you want to snap, 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 or clap, 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 we just want to celebrate April Ross and her contributions to the work that she's doing. So thank you, April.
Thank you so much.
And if everybody could just give her a round of applause, because she certainly deserves it.
I appreciate it, y'all. Don't embarrass me. Y'all making me turn red. I'm sorry.
And there was just one other public comment. It was regarding the EFIT rules. It was for a question by Dr. Parks about class size for virtual classes as well as in person. So we are looking at that as well. We are looking at, what would be, we might have to look at, manageability of a class size for one facilitator in a virtual setting. So we are going to be looking at that, and we do want to hear suggestions. So as April mentioned, the process for the rule revision approval, there will be a public comment. So at that time, if there are any suggestions on how that should move, we definitely will look at that.
Is this where I say something, or you moving to the next question, or what we do?
If there is more to what you had, I just went off what you put in the form.
Yeah, I don't know if it made sense. I was saying, would it be different? Yeah, I think you answered that. Would it be different for in-person versus virtual? That's all I was saying. Or was it going to be the same across the board?
Right now it is, but we are looking at that because we have heard that it can be hard to manage multiple participants in a virtual setting. So we're trying to see how that can be managed.
And I'll just say briefly about the rules proposal you just saw. What you saw today is most likely not what you'll see at the end. So just know that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for collaboration and engagement about what the final rules should look like. So just stay tuned, everybody. Hold on with us, and stay on the roller coaster and along for the ride, and we will get there. But yeah, if you saw anything today that has already sparked your attention in terms of another approach, be sure to communicate that with Jamila and let her know. But right now, the initial proposal you just saw is under review with legal. And then we'll have time, once that kind of comes up, it'll get cleaned up some, it'll come back, and then it goes to us to this body in June. So we'll have plenty of time to get information from you if you have ideas. But if there are was there any other anybody else?
I just it was something that we forgot to announce for the FFIPs that are on the call. We are, just FYI, we are experiencing some issues with the payment processing system for the FFIPs monthly fees. So until we get that problem resolved, do not submit payments. Nadej will send you an email once that issue has been resolved. You still will be required to enter your participants monthly. So don't stop doing that. But the invoice payment piece, once we get that resolved, that's when you can make your payment. So it's not an excuse not to pay, but we will let you know when it'll be up and running again. That was it.
Any other comments or?
Yes. How you doing, Mr. Sproul and everyone? This is Danielle Stevenson. Question about the virtual. If we're no longer in a brick and mortar, can we just, do we still say we're in a certain county without an address? how do we write it on the paperwork?
So I'll just say, we're not gonna do a lot of, what we'll do is just, if you have thoughts about that, or questions, we'll take it under advisement, and review it. So the best thing to do for a question like that is just send us what you're thinking and what your concern is, so we can review it. Yeah, that might be the best way to approach it there versus trying to explain that here. So is there any other thoughts around, or any other questions or announcements or concerns?
There were no more public comments, April.
Okay, all right. Anyone that didn't get a chance to submit the form, speak now, or forever hold your peace. All right, I think we're done.
All right, April, we want to congratulate you again, though. You almost snuck that past me, but I'm so happy that it brought to our attention. Congratulations, you are so deserving.
Thank you.
And the chat box is just jumping with the same kinds of congrats. So again, thank you so much. And again, thanks everybody for joining the call. And we'll see you on the next call. And all the FVIP providers, remember that we're working to make sure that this is a smooth process and nobody will be eliminated from their thoughts and conversations around any issues pertaining to FVIP and the work that we do. So thanks again, guys. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend and stay safe.
Thank you.
Everybody, have a great weekend. Don't forget to change your clock.
Yeah.
That's right.
Stay off.
Hold on, team. And we can stop recording.
Recording stopped.